What's going on, man? It's another episode. Glad y'all tuned in. It's episode 4 of the Down Home Scoop, man. Today we got a special guest.
Yes, sir.
Tulu's finest, man.
The one and only
Marquise Hunt. What up, fool?
What's up, brother?
It's good, man.
It's an honor to be on the couch with you,
Yes,
man.
sir. Yes, sir. You man, you good peer of mine, man. I just want to get into it, man. Like, I got a question for you, man. It's like, people don't know who you are. Like, what do you do in your organization? Like, what's some of you focus on?
So the organization that I've done a lot of work with and for since I was about 15 is the NAACP,
Okay.
the nation's oldest civil rights organization, one of the most premier, if you will, when it comes to civil rights.
Okay.
And so just this past year, I finished serving under the board of directors, creating policies and programs for the Youth and College Division. But outside of that, just doing a lot of community organizing around different issues that impact communities, especially the Black community.
Right.
A lot of us believe that all Black people in America are dealing with some of the same issues, but when you go to different communities, you'll see how sometimes the list changes.
Yeah.
It diversifies.
And it diversifies, exactly.
Right.
So really trying to make sure that we can create agendas to find sustainable outcomes and solutions to whatever issues different people in the communities find.
Okay.
I think a lot of times we see people who find quick solutions and quick fixes.
A lot of quick fixes.
A lot of quick fixes that don't have a long-lasting impact. And so I think that once we start creating agendas around those things, then we can start to really develop and increase our communities and what they look like.
So do you folks mostly here in Jackson? Everybody knows what you do around Jackson, but like, do you folks like when you travel like to back home or something?
Yeah, I would say everywhere.
Just saying, man. Shit, that's like he just focus over in one town. Like, shit.
So where are you originally from?
I'm from Virginia, Hampton Roads.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what brought you to Tulu?
The history behind the school, its involvement in
Right.
civil rights, it being the safe haven for a lot of folks in Mississippi, and whoever came through the civil rights movement and came through the state of Mississippi, for some reason had to just stop at Tulu College. I even know stories about students who went to Jackson State, no shade to Jackson State, but it being a public institution,
Of course.
and a lot of students weren't able to really be as active as they wanted to be because they were receiving state dollars. And so a lot of those students like Joyce Ladner came over to Tulu College because it was a private institution.
Okay.
They could feel more comfortable and safer and actually do the work that they wanted to do without any real consequence from the state, if that makes any sense.
So Tulu basically is just like a safe haven for people of color, to go get an education, not feel, in too much debt, whatever, and just, try to, I guess, educate yourself.
Yeah.
Freedom about
Freedom,
being private
yeah.
school. I never thought about it that way. I'm glad you said that because, a lot of people, I don't know. I kind of always was like, public school, private school charging more, so just go to public school. But when you think about it, if you're receiving state dollars and y'all start acting up,
Right.
and the state cut the dollars in the school.
Exactly.
And there's a big difference between Tulu and Jackson State funds. You can see the funds.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because Tulu, we get most of our money from donors and different organizations and stuff like that, whereas a state, you're actually getting state-funded dollars from the government. So, like you said, big difference, and you can definitely see it. I've come to Jackson State a few times, and you just see the huge difference.
You see the environment, you see the community. Very welcoming community. That's what I would say. Like, so people that's not on not your, I guess, status with as far as community work, like, what are some small minimal things that people like, normal people like me and you, even you or Ray, like, do to help our community just keep it in a positive light, keep us forward?
I think the biggest thing is just staying in tune. A lot of times, activists and community leaders try to pressure you to do more than you actually want to do.
Right.
And there's no real requirement for people when it comes to civic engagement. There's no real, I wouldn't say requirement, there's no real
minimum.
No, I'm trying to figure out the word I want to use. There's no real description.
Okay.
So you don't have to fall under these certain things in order for you to be engaged in your community.
Right.
So like, even for us, if it was sharing things on social media, I consider that civic engagement.
Right.
You shared something, when we started talking about the issues at Parchman, you saw a lot of people sharing that on social media. That was a way for people to really understand and see what was going on here in Mississippi, where people didn't even have to come to Jackson in order for them to be like, this is what's going on at Parchman.
Because I've been getting ideas like that. We're like, why didn't I know it was a catastrophic thing going on down here?
Yeah.
And that really, like you said, I just Word of mouth, really.
Yeah, so that plays a huge role. And if you can take a step above that, I would encourage folks to do that. But a lot of times you don't want to go out there and march and protest. Right. Or you don't want to go out there and be in meetings. And so you find different ways to try and be involved and engaged. And there's so many different ways that not a lot of people are thinking about that are very, very useful.
Right, okay.
I like that. So get in where you fit in.
Absolutely. Get in where you fit in.
One of my questions was like, okay, when you first came to Jackson, what first went through your mind, like coming out the East Coast, coming down to little old Jackson, Mississippi?
It's crazy you said that. Somebody asked me that last week because the conversation was, how is it for people who are coming from a small city going to a big city?
Right.
And, they gave their response. And they're like, all right, Marquise, how is it coming from a big city going to a small city?
Yeah.
And it was really a culture shock. What I would consider a social norm in Virginia would not necessarily be accepted as a social norm here in Jackson.
Right.
Whether it be from the way you dress, to the way you speak, to the way you carry yourself. So many different things that a lot of people look at and they're like, where are you from?
Yeah, like...
when I first came to Jackson, that was a question that I got a lot because people are like, we don't have people that dress like you down here.
Right.
And that wasn't necessarily true. There are many people who
dress like...
It's a lot of niggas like without American Fighter jeans on.
They're just people who are people wherever you go.
Right.
But the culture is just so different.
Right.
And that's what I was saying at the very beginning. A lot of black folks think that when you go to different places and you see black folks, that all black folks are going to be the same. That's not true. The culture is different. The experiences are different. Their upbringings are different. And so you find a different array of black people, which is so, I think, beautiful, if you will, because I have a black brother in Jackson, or I have another black brother in Jackson, and we're from two totally different places, but we can still, relate in some way, shape, or form.
Our culture might be different, we might sound different, but we all have the same struggle, we all have the same intellect.
In some way, shape, or form, we do. Exactly.
Right. Because when I was up there, I used to travel the East Coast a lot, bro, and I was getting a lot of stares, like, why you dress like this? Why you look like this? Why you sound like this? Like, you different, shorty. You did, but it's cool though, because like you said, it's cool to learn how different people adjust. Like I feel like we're all the same, but it's just like a lot of times we need that different type of exposure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's like I can't wear a suit all day long in Jackson because I'm gonna burn up.
You're gonna burn up.
It's not.
But you go to Virginia and people are just dressed up every single day. You know, and so it's just like there's so many different things that play an effect into the way that we operate in different spaces. So I think that's a unique thing about us.
I just love it, bro. Just different people, bro. It's all different cultures, but we all the same when it comes down to it. It's just we might do something different. We just got our own different way to do it. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
I mean, but that's the blessing of black people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
Black people got cultures that they don't even know is in the culture.
Right.
Because like you said, so you go to the East Coast or the Philly or whatever, like the Joan thing.
Right.
Joan got out and then everybody was like, that's my Joan.
All that doing.
And they were saying forever. I know I went there one time and I met a guy from Philly in DC. Or it was like a group of them. I went to the conference. And everybody was kind of giving their spiel, I'm from Detroit. So I was like, we'd be like, what up, though?
Yeah, what up, though?
This is what it is, get that chicken, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Thinking like slug or different terms of money.
Right.
They was like, man, John. And that was all they had. But it was like so much that's all they needed. And I was just like, that's my John. We about to go hit that John. We on the way that. I was like, oh, that's simple, bro. I like it, bro. I'm going to ride with that for a little bit.
Let me tell you when I went to DC, like, when my homie said DC, shout out to Brock, you already know Clark Atlanta Morehouse was popping, Then they took me to a party up there, bro, and I'm walking up around the party, bro. Niggas are like, what's up, Slim? What's up, Shorty? What's up, Mo? What's up, Slim? I'm like, nigga, you know I'm not Slim, bro. Like, Slim?
I appreciate it, but
obviously. I'm not like y'all niggas in shape up here.
Yeah. Slim is a thing. Folks call me Slim all the time.
Right. Yeah. I just figured out, that's their lingo. I can ride with it. I like that shit. Like, everybody got their own lingo. It's unique to me.
Yeah.
I mean, because I don't say parking spot no more. I feel like it was stupid when I first found out y'all called parking spots parks.
Yeah. Parks. When I came down here and I was riding with one of my friends, I'm like, I'm looking for a park.
And I'm
looking for a what?
Parks,
we at the mall. I know I'm outside looking for a park.
Yeah.
We're at the mall. A parking spot. And he said it like I was so slow, like a parking spot.
But you know what's crazy? It's like even when it comes down to the lingo that black folk use in other places,
right?
When you go to different places and you start to hear them express, it's easy for you to kind of pick up where they're from.
It's quick. I pick up quick.
So it's like if somebody says something that most Mississippians will say, you're like,
you from the South?
Yeah. Or they be like, I'm from Jackson, or I'm from Moss Point or something.
Right,
so you're able to catch on once you start listening to the diversity and culture when it comes to the lingo.
I ain't gonna lie, like Jackson, like I've been all talking about Mississippi. Jackson, I can say it's definitely a Jew city because I never heard of Jew till I got on the corner over there in West Jackson. Like Jew is definitely a Jackson grown.
Oh, that
lingo.
If you go anywhere in the world and hear Jew, you call Jackson out across the park.
Right.
Hey, bro. You from Jackson?
Right. If you ain't from Jackson, it's literally a Jew. The niggas has the curls and everything, man. Lord. Oh, another thing about Jackson, bro. The mall, the Metro Mall.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
How do you feel about the Metro Mall situation? This woman finally buying it out, trying to bring it back to life or revive it, as she would say.
Well, technically, it was a group of investors.
Okay.
And I don't know if she was supposed to go and shoot the video, but she shot the video.
Right.
And that was the first announcement of it. On like a broad scale, because social media runs the world. So
of course.
When it hit social media, and she was like, "Yeah, we just bought it. We about to open up." Everybody shared it. Right. But I think it's like a group of like 10 investors.
10 investors. Okay.
So, but I don't know, bro. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Like I said,
me too.
I just want them to focus on entertainment and attractions.
Yeah.
Because shopping is gonna happen as long as you got stores. You
Most
got to bring
definitely.
people.
Absolutely. Most definitely.
And people is key. Especially in the mall setting, and as long as you got people gonna shop just because they're in the vicinity.
Mm-hmm. Do you think like Metro could get back to the glory years back it was back in the 90s? What I heard, because I seen pictures of Metro back in the day. It looked like Lenox in Atlanta.
It's up to black people.
It's right. Yeah.
I mean, this is the most dense town of African Americans in the country.
Yeah.
So
90% black.
If a mall is going to do anything, all we have to do is go
spend that dollar.
Show up. Mall is
right.
Literally just show
up. Yeah.
Like, go buy a shirt a month. If everybody in Jackson went in there and made a purchase in the store a month, the mall will always look packed.
Yeah, that's true. So it's basically up to us to spend our black dollar in order to see it thrive how it used to.
If in fact the institution itself is treating black folks the way they're supposed to be treated. Because a lot of people don't recognize that black folks are the reason that a lot of these businesses and industries flourish because of the black dollar. But a lot of times, a lot of these industries are really hurting black folks.
Right.
Yeah.
And because the product is so enticing, if you will, black folks will continue to spend their dollars, not recognizing that the only reason that the institution is open is because we are feeding it.
Right.
And so once we start recognizing that, maybe this isn't necessarily the best. Maybe we should pull back a little bit. Or if this is a good investment and this is helping the community and helping black folks, let's make sure that our dollars are going there to support black business.
To help us up. You feel me?
Absolutely.
Right. To add to that, I feel like a lot of the times it comes because there's a lack of an alternative. Like with every boycott, there's never a stop buying here, risk buying here. I mean, it'd be a general buy black, but if you're not solving a specific problem that you're stopping, like if they close a corner store, if somebody that's in that radius that goes to that corner store for milk can't get milk, they gotta go to the corner store. Eventually, they gonna have to go to the corner store
or go to out north somewhere. Yeah.
And if they don't have the means to go out north on a traditional, and you're not providing the means for them to go out north,
exactly,
then you can't say that's your solution. Go out north. It's like I'm used to this store, or if it's Gucci. I'm on the designer brand.
Right.
Gucci said, skip me. Okay, so I'm going to boycott Gucci. And I'm going to go to another designer brand that says skip me. When they say skip me, I'm going to go back to Gucci because I don't have another option. So I feel like if we start providing alternatives when somebody do something, then it's, what it means. If somebody opened up a juice stove next to the juice store that's disrespecting the black community.
Right.
And, we can go there, then we can shut down the other juice store.
Right.
But until then,
there's really nowhere to go.
But you know that there are a lot of black businesses that folks just don't know about.
It is.
And that's the hard part, because not too many people, the reason that a lot of black businesses aren't as big as a lot of these other ones is because people aren't shopping there. You know, they aren't investing their dollars there. And so the black business itself has to operate based upon its own, you know, its own income, whatever it is that they're able to produce and get back in from the clientele that they do have. That's a hard thing to do. And so when they're not as big as Gucci and they don't have a website, or they're not on every social media platform, they don't have commercials,
it's gonna be tough.
How hard is it, do you think, that it's gonna be for folks in other places to hear about the black business?
Exactly.
If I can't even get the exposure that my business needs because folks aren't talking about it, because there is this other business that is so tasteful that most people want to go.
Yeah, everybody want to get designer. Nobody wants to support no local brand like Country Bunker or anything like that. They wouldn't know because it's not being put out like the Gucci's and the Louis and all that. You know what I'm saying?
And you gotta have, you know, we have a lot of black folks who have, you know, different statuses and different platforms who could use their position to uplift and to talk about the different black businesses, but we got so whitewashed.
Yeah, we have
with a lot of stuff, and black business isn't necessarily always a part of the conversation when we start talking about some of these things, which is why I think it's important for us to really address it and discuss it. Yeah, for sure.
To go back to kind of what you said about Jackson State and how people had to leave Jackson State because it was public, and it would affect the university. That might be the position of some of the people that are in position to actually affect something. They can't because they're in that public university and their funds can be cut off.
Right.
And then they're, you know, messed up. So, and they fear going to the private sector because, like you said, Tougaloo is less funded because it has to fund itself.
Right, exactly.
And they fear, you know, having to fund themselves.
And, you know, I had a conversation with one of my cousins on Facebook, and I said HBCUs are the best. And they said, well, they don't give out the dollars and the scholarships. I said, well, you got to go to them first.
You got to look for it
before you can get the money. And a lot of folks, they think that the institutions are just going to have it. And I'm like, these are the institutions that are the least funded, you know? Right. And if you have students who are going to the institution and you see folks that are willing to invest in the institution because of what it is producing, then you'll start to see things happen a little bit differently. They were like, they don't give out scholarships. And I'm like, you got to apply to the institution. You got to. There's so many different things that you have to do.
I don't agree with that statement. If you can't get a scholarship to HBCU, then you can't get a scholarship to
a PWI.
Jackson State was giving full tuition, half from the board scholarships for a 3.0 and a 23.
Nigga, I got a scholarship. They just told me to move in. I ain't get the acceptance letter. I'm like, you just come on, we all got the door open. This. I'm like, so yeah, like they really take everybody in from all backgrounds. So I don't know the problem.
For you to say that, and there's way too many people paying at PWI loans to have that be an argument, because HBCUs are giving scholarships out.
Like crack, for real. It's
literally like crack.
Yeah, like
a 3.0 and a 23 is a full tuition, half room and board scholarship.
Yeah. They got scholarships for people that write with their left hand, I think.
Like all types.
Yeah,
literally.
So anybody that said that didn't apply.
Right.
Like literally, if you go to Michigan, you need like a 27 and a 3.6 for scholarship money to qualify. So you telling me Michigan is giving you scholarship dollars, but you couldn't come to Jackson State?
Right.
That's dead.
That kind of fits in with the next one, like with generational wealth. How do you think we should approach it as a black community to come together and just build our own dollars up in order to get us started in our next new generation of family to, like, you know, to help keep it going, like how the white people have their families going, you know what I mean? How do you think we should approach it?
Let me just tell you about my family.
Okay.
So my family has a 20-year plan.
Okay.
That 20-year plan starts off at $2. So each year for 20 years, you double the amount that you save. So at the 20th year, after saving and doubling each year, you would ultimately be a millionaire based upon everything that you saved. So it'll be $2, $4, $8, and you just double up for 20 years.
Is that a day or
this is free gym?
That's just literally the year.
Free $2 a year.
if you $2 for the first year,
right?
The next year is $4, so now you have $8 from the
third year. Okay.
Yeah. So then you add $8 to the $8 that you already have.
Compound interest.
Exactly.
Wow.
So you keep increasing it every year.
Did not know
when you get to that 10th year and you gotta save $100K, you better.
Yeah, but at that point you would already be in the habit,
right? You already
saving, and so you literally have me, my cousin, well, two of my cousins, an aunt and an uncle who are really starting to work, who are on this plan.
Right.
So at the 20th year, you've got 5 millionaires in the family because they saved each year. And
just
$2.
Start off $2.
You start off at $2 and you just double up. And so that takes discipline and budgeting, you know, and you have to have, of course, some form of income to be able to sustain that. So that's the plan that we have, but it was important for us to make sure that we did that because we know that white people have years of generational wealth.
Especially down here, you know, people living off country money. Like, that's a lot of old money down here.
Yeah, and, you know, we have a hard time saving our dollars.
Right.
Putting our dollars to good use.
Right.
I remember seeing a lot of memes from this year, and they're like, in 2020, I'm gonna save my money instead of spending it going out to eat. And we do that.
Right.
These are things that we like to enjoy to do. But when you start to see that, well, maybe I can cut out going out to eat for 20 years.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then when the 20th year get here, I can go wherever I want.
Yeah, you can ball out
because I have everything that I need. And then you got to think about it. 20 years from now, we're all still young.
Yeah, definitely.
Ain't none of us gonna be 50 or 60 years old, and then even if we started over after the 20 years to do it again,
we still do it again.
You can still do it again, or just keep on increasing it from that point on. And so, really being able to provide for yourself, and then make sure that there are things in place for your family to recognize that this is something important for us to do. And then this is something that we want to pass on to the generations yet to come in our family. So
I think that's just like you said, it's the biggest problem with black people. Like, if we see it and we got it on and we want to spend it, like, that's what they make these companies make for you to get it. You know what I'm saying? You have to go out there and spend it. You know what I'm saying? But despite the fact, like, a lot of people not on game, like how he do his family. You know what I'm saying? It's just the generation keeps going on and on, just keep on being depleted, and on household, on welfare and stuff. But you got to take those precautionary steps yourself and build upon yourself, because nobody's going to help you, especially out of this government, how this going society.
But let me add, as far as generational wealth, it just take a generation to sit down and take the L.
Time,
If one generation takes the L and lives like, I'm gonna say like an immigrant family, because you know a lot of the rich immigrants always give their immigrant story. If you got 3 siblings, instead of y'all all going out doing your own thing, y'all live in one house.
That can mix it.
And y'all, as 3 people with 3 working class people, y'all got a $600 mortgage.
Right.
Lights bills, utilities, you might be at like $1,000. And if y'all do that, everybody's saving basically their whole check.
Right.
And after, like you said, he got a 20-year. After 5 or 10 years of that, saving basically your whole check, everybody taking home $40K. That's like $100,000 a year as a collective.
Damn.
So in 10 years, y'all as a collective are millionaires. If y'all invest, accordingly
and take the proper sacrifice,
then like you said, in 20 years, y'all looking at 3 multi-millionaires. Only because y'all sat down for 10 years and, shared a house and cooked together and, raised the families together. And it's hard because everybody want to go out and live their own life.
Yeah, I want to live their best life.
But even at that point, if you go get a bigger house, like $1 million mortgage, I want to say it's like $4,000 a month. Because everybody got $1,000, rents anyway. Everybody living in the condos and everything.
Gotta be lavish. So
if you take 4 people, y'all can go get the 8-bedroom mansion and live in there for $1,000 a month a piece. You ain't even got to see nobody else.
Exactly.
If you're going to spend $1,000, if you're going to boss your life up, now you got a mansion to live in. And when after y'all pay that off, you got $1 million worth of assets you can sell off, or equity you can go back against. And then as far as community, You got to build a community of people to do that. If you get a 4-block radius or a 16-block radius of people that's doing that, and everybody is, patronizing whatever the people in the community do, bro, you got $1 billion community in 10, 20 years.
Deep. So, that being said, how you think this American political system is set for us to succeed or not to succeed? I know you better get real now. Like, do you think there's any outlets that we can come as a people to come together and just make it kind of hard for us to work? You think it's set for us to work harder than any other race?
Well, we know that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna flip the script. I'm gonna say it's not set up for us to succeed.
Right.
But if we played the game right, we could succeed because they won't pay attention to a degree. Like, as African Americans, we always had to one up. Like, we kind of got it to where we gonna one up the white man or keep up with him. Or, it's always we looking over what they got going on, or they did this. If you look at the other, ethnicities, they amongst each other, do their own thing.
They work together,
live together, eat together, patronize each other.
No arguing.
They don't care what's going on.
Right.
Because it's not affecting our community because we here. I mean, I'm not the greater good of, Senate and House and controlling and having to say so on what. No, we're not set up to succeed, and it probably won't. I ain't say you never get to that point, but it'll take a
long.
I mean, we would have to overcome the current system, and we're not gonna be able to overcome the current system by trying to go through it.
And you got to think about this. We're talking about an institution of 400 plus years of slavery.
That gap, right. That huge gap.
And each generation is trying to combat it differently.
Right.
A
different approach.
Everybody coming with
each generation has a different approach to this 400-year system.
Slavery, yeah.
But even on top of that, we don't know the conversations that white folks are having at their tables to try and continue the legacy of their Southern heritage to make sure that they stay on top. Right. While we are still trying to battle with each other about what direction we're going to go in.
Exactly. That's a key statement.
So that in itself creates this broad conversation about what is this really going to look like? Because, and a lot of people don't want to have this conversation because if we keep going at the rate that we're going at, and I told people this, I said, you got to realize that we just might not fix any of the things that we're fighting for.
Right.
If we keep going at the rate that we're going.
Yeah. So will a fighting losing battle really?
I mean, we fighting like when you said, I never thought about it that way, and I kind of lied because when I used to take road trips, I used to love when I got where we didn't have no hip hop station, and I always would find a talk radio, and they'd be like in the middle of like Missouri.
Oh yeah.
And they'd just be talking, and you'll be hearing it, be like, dang, they really think like this, and we never analyze our opponent. We focus on if I do great, we gonna keep fighting. A great fighter fights his opponent. He doesn't fight his fighter. Like he knows what his strengths are, but he knows what his opponent's weaknesses are or tendencies.
And even to that point, that ties into the conversation around Parchman.
Yeah.
Right? So you got a lot of people, and this really just dawned on me this past weekend after the rally Friday. You got a lot of people who are like, we want better conditions for Parchman. We want better conditions for our prison system.
I like where this is going.
But you think about it and you're like, okay, I could see you wanted to make sure that your loved ones that are in there have
everybody's human.
What they deserve.
Right.
Still.
Right.
But you're really talking about feeding a system of slavery.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And not stopping it. Slavery better.
Right.
Versus getting rid of the prison system.
13th Amendment, right?
Because we need to dive into the discussion about why some of these crimes shouldn't be crimes, or why the sentences shouldn't be this long, or why there isn't a real rehabilitation services.
Or why they took all the programs out of prison.
Or why they took all the programs out of
prison. The rehabilitation.
Exactly. So we're not having this discussion, but yet we don't want to hold Black elected officials accountable, whether it be in the legislature or in the city of Jackson. Right. Yeah. Because if you want to look at what's happening in the city of Jackson, you might want to take a look at the docket and all the people that's on the docket getting ready to go to jail. That's another story. So then you wonder where these people are going for crimes that are really simple and very minute. And you have a lot of people in prison who just can't afford to get out and make bond. And so you have folks sitting in prison
for so many
years because they literally don't have the funds and resources to get out. Where in Virginia, we have a program through the DARE. It's called the DARE program. The sheriff's name is Michael Moore, and
like drugs against or
I can't think of the full acronym right now.
You had it in an educational program.
Yeah, it's an educational program too. Yeah. But what they do is they have partnerships with organizations and churches that when people can't afford to make bail, depending on the amount, they literally will pay their bail to make sure that they can get out of prison and jail so that they're not sitting in there for such a long time. And so when you start looking at criminal justice reform, that's a part of it. And so the sheriff in Virginia has worked in that, that sector to make sure that we're not only having people go to jail for the crime that they committed, but we're actually rehabilitating them to make sure that when they get out, they're productive citizens.
Right. They got trades.
They have trades, and they've learned something while they were in there that they may not have been able to learn while they were out doing whatever it was that got them in there in the first place.
Right.
So, a lot of things to look at, but again, there's a system that's in place that encourages us to make sure that we have prisons, but yet we need to work even harder to make sure that we combat this whether it be school to prison, community to prison pipeline, so many different things that we can really talk about to make sure that we end the prison system as a whole, because a lot of things just aren't worth people going to prison for.
And that's crazy. Because I've been kind of feeling that way too about everybody. We need better conditions. I'm like, nobody's saying nothing about stopping people from getting in
the prison system.
Let's start. Let's start a fight in the small. Let's go all the way back to the start. Why are they there?
Exactly.
What can we have did?
How bad is their crime? How bad is the crime? What did they really do?
I mean, even whatever they did, it could be minute. Right. But how do we stop people from getting in prison? Period.
Because when you look at it, you just see people getting sent to prison or sent to jail, and I use prison loosely, forgive me. Sent to jail, because they're two different things. Right. A lot of people don't recognize that.
Right.
Sent to jail, and it's like, but where's the community service? Where's the lesson in this that's teaching me? Because if a child does something in school and gets suspended without understanding why what he or she did was wrong, what makes you think that they won't do it again, not recognizing that I'm being suspended for actually doing something wrong? I know that I did something and the result of me doing this was me being suspended, but what lesson did you teach me in that process?
Because what did I do for 2 days? I sat at home and played the game.
Exactly.
Right. Ate some snacks while y'all was in here learning. I'm trying to get suspended every week.
Right. That's vacation time.
And that's what it's training them to, because they not learning no lesson from it.
It's dumbing
Same
down.
thing with prison. I mean, not prison, jail.
Jail.
You get 3 months in jail, you sit down, you eat, whatever, you come home.
And you literally do nothing with me while I'm there, but have me serve this time, pay my money, right? Because it costs.
Yeah.
And then I get out, and I'm back in the same environment that I was in before I even got here, which was the reason that I possibly got here in the first place.
And that person's telling everybody that jail ain't bad.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad.
That's when institutionalization
comes in. That 3 months went by fast.
Right. That's institutionalization. You feel me? You used to that environment, you know what I'm saying? Because it's a lot of people that once they get out, they can't operate in a civilized society. They feel like jail's the only answer.
Or you hear people and they be like, I did time, I did this. I'm like, probably didn't have to do time for what you did. But there's a system in place that literally forced you to do it and you had no option.
Right.
And so a lot of times we try and validate the system, but there's no real validation to a system that comes from slavery and really continues that
slavery practice.
Not practice.
I had a question on something you touched on. You said you don't see people doing community service. And one thing I always thought was, if I'm a city official or a mayor or anybody in power, I have jobs I have to pay people to do. and basically I'm gonna just take the prison people and make it community service, and I'm not gonna have to pay nobody to clean up the highway.
And you know, through the rehabilitation program and the DARE program back in my city where I'm from, that's what they do. They literally take them to cut the elderly's yard.
Wow.
They do all these things, and you see them out there because they're the part of this weekly program that is teaching them the ways of civilization, and to be a decent citizen. This is something that you might do. You know, you might just be nice and go cut the neighbor's yard. Things that
y'all good machines.
And so, I mean, if you don't have nothing better to do,
right?
Here are 25 things that you can do instead of running in the gas station grabbing a bag of chips.
And so you see them. We're literally on the interstate or something, or
picking up trash. That's the only thing I've seen.
Picking up trash, but they'll literally go to the elderly neighborhoods and the older communities in our city, and they go cut their grass and do all these other things. I remember even to the point where our Sheriff Michael Moore, they had a program where they allowed the daughters of the men who were in jail to come and have a father-daughter dance
in the prison
at the jail.
At the jail, yeah.
And so they had this program to where they allow them to do that. But you go to these other places, and half the time they can't even get visitation to see their children.
No conjugal visits, none of that. Yeah.
So there are a lot of things that they were doing. And then our chief judge, Judge Johnny Morrison, they have a drug program. Mm-hmm. So you literally go through a program that helps you get clean, get off drugs. You get a certificate signed by the judge and everything. And they literally are excited about this because this is helping my life become a little bit better.
And you know how to adapt once you release.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, because they're in the business of helping the community.
And you have to be genuine with that. But you have a lot of institutions, like in Mississippi and other places. Mississippi is not just the only place.
Right.
Where they really don't care about the end result of the people that they're throwing behind bars. And a lot of them are innocent.
Yeah. Oh, that's always
and it doesn't matter at that point. It's a number and a quota. I got to get to it. They need it. You gone. And you can't do nothing about it. Why? Because you can't afford to fight it.
Yeah.
So, I see you in
they know that.
Yeah,
man. They know that.
I just learned something new.
Yeah. But Sheriff Michael Moore, shout out to him.
Shout out to Virginia. Y'all doing
Shout out to Virginia, man.
Yeah.
Y'all setting the tone, man.
Yeah.
Mississippi got to pick it up. And other states. I'm not just singling the whole state out.
But you know, in that process, the sheriff has been attacked by blacks and whites in our city.
Wow.
For doing this. And that's literally what it comes down to. Because this whole jail system creates dollars.
Yeah.
It generates dollars. And when you start helping those that are in there, they're looking like, like, what are you doing? And so they've come after our Sheriff Michael Moore, but he's definitely done a stand-up job maintaining himself and being who he is in that role and position, like most folks should be.
So in your perspective, he's basically doing the right thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It takes a strong person.
Right.
Because you really stopping the system.
Yeah.
Anytime you stop a system, it's going to be repercussions that you're going to have to, stand strong on. So
yeah.
I'm glad I hope, he has the proper things in place.
Yeah.
And everything. But that's what it takes. Somebody has to stand in the way and say, I'm done with it. We're not doing that no more. This is what we're going to do to help them. This is.
Yeah.
And until that point, you're just going to continue to spiral that you in. And right now it's overpopulating prisons and jails because they sending any and everybody to jail and can't nobody stop it.
And one of the things that they tried to do was shut down the jail in our city. There's only one jail in our city. And then you have the regional jail, which has already been deemed unsafe and inhumane. Right? So they were trying to shut down the jail, and they said that there were so many problems in the jail. But they were like, instead of you talking about trying to shut down the jail, why don't you just allocate the funds for us to fix the jail so that we can maintain it? But what would happen as a result of them closing the jail would be people would lose jobs. They would have to move all of these inmates to the regional jail, which is a place that they've already deemed inhumane and unsafe, where people have died in the prison.
Oh, Lord.
I'm telling you, this is a national issue. But they have died in the prison and still no answer about, how they died, why they died, all these type of things. And so they actually took the case to court, and the judge said that, and I think the word that they used were unconstitutional, either unconstitutional based upon statute of our city that they couldn't shut the jail down. Instead, give them the money to fix the jail.
Right.
And so they really tried that because then it would limit the duties and the responsibilities to the sheriff to where he couldn't do the things that he needed to do as he was, helping rehabilitate the inmates.
Yeah.
A big system here. And black folks wear blackface really well. We talk about white people who wear blackface, but it's some black folks that wear blackface too. Mm-hmm. And they really, I don't really know the purpose behind it. And a lot of it comes from money being put in their pocket.
Yeah.
And investments that they've made or boards and commissions that they sit on that really...
That public.
Exactly. And so you look at it and you're just like, but you should be better than that.
Right.
And a lot of times the thought of being better just doesn't go too far for a lot of people.
Being better ain't good.
And it's just the uncomfortability.
Uncomfortability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Syllables. Okay. That they feel not, you got to go out on your own and take that, like the sheriff right now. Like, he had to go out on his own, make that decision, and he knew it was going to be repercussions, but he was prepared to deal with them. A lot of these people that can or are in position of power are comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want to, at the risk of them being uncomfortable, make a change.
Exactly.
Man, March 14th, Boosie Bash. We'll be live in Baton Rouge, Southern University. What's popping? We're going to stop by with the crew, man. It's going to be lit. Pull up on me. You know about me? Just shit. DM me. Anything. February 25th, Fat Tuesday, New Orleans. We going down there acting a whole ass. You know how my crew do. We're going to be on the same shit, same day, different bullshit, And, hell, Texas soon. Yeah, some of Texas. Yeah, Dallas. Be on the lookout. More dates coming soon.